All right, welcome to our second live session of the day here at STAO 2018. Joe Grabowski is just about to start talking about his Explorer classroom and his company Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So here you go.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Sorry, give me a sec. Just reloading after it's shut down. Okay, all right.
Good morning, everyone. How was your first session?
Very good.
Yeah. Did you get to exhibits? Okay, awesome. So my name is Julie. I'm conference co-chair, and I have the great pleasure of introducing to you today Joe Grabowski, who we are really ecstatic to have for a second time. Joe was at conference last year, and people were super excited by his session. So just a bit about Joe. He's a Canadian educator and a National Geographic Explorer and fellow. In September 2015, I can't believe it's only been that 3 years.
Yeah.
He launched the nonprofit Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants to bring science exploration, adventure, and conservation into classrooms across North America via virtual speakers and field trips. Since launching, Joe has connected over 100,000 students with leading scientists and explorers from over 50 countries. He's also launched National Geographic's Explorer Classroom, utilizing satellite technology to broadcast into classrooms from the most remote field sites on our planet. Joe is also an avid scuba diver and a top 50 global teacher prize finalist and a fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. Can you guys give him a
Thank you. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out today. As mentioned, my name is Joe Grabowski, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time sharing my story, how opening up my classroom to the world changed the way I teach and set me off on a pretty cool adventure that's taken me all over the world. And I'm going to share with you some really cool resources that you can start using right away to start opening your classrooms up to the world. So as soon as Monday, if you're ready. So a little bit about me to start. So that's my family. My wife, Elizabeth, she's a teacher as well. And then I have a 5-year-old named Finn and a 2-year-old named Nora. So they keep me busy. And I've got a couple of mutts as well who we have kicking around the house. They're a lot of fun. I like to do the kind of things that still keep my mom up at night. I like to get outside, go out on an adventure, and do things that kind of give me a little bit of a rush. And my favorite thing to do on the planet is to scuba dive. So I've been diving for over 10 years now, training every year so I can go to different places around the world, dive deeper, do different kinds of dives, and got a few little shots here from some adventures along the way. So this is a green sea turtle in Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. We have a cuttlefish, which is kind of like a combination between a squid and an octopus almost. Great hammerheads in Bimini in the Bahamas, pretty incredible, 10, 12 feet long. They even come and smile for the pictures, get some really good shots. And I thought I'd take you down with me so you can see a little bit of what it's like in the water. So this is in Bimini, 25 feet deep. We were down for 6 hours, over 2 days with the hammerheads. See some nurse sharks sitting on the bottom, and the hammerheads coming one at a time, one by one. You can see they're just like big puppy dogs. So I know that might have looked intimidating, but it wasn't aggressive. It was more, hey, I'm a big predator too, and you're in my space. So they like to kind of just show that they're big and tough as well. We spent 6 hours on the bottom. As you can see, I still have all my limbs intact. So. All right, so 2007, I graduated. I studied biology and zoology at the University of Guelph. But when I finished, I had no idea what I wanted to do next. My future wife, though, she knew she wanted to be a teacher, so she wanted to go to Wollongong in Australia for teachers college. So she said, hey, do you want to come along? Who's going to turn down a year of bartending and traveling in Australia? It was the best year of my life. That's where I started diving. And it was through these adventures that I realized I wanted to share my passions for exploration, for our planet, for what we're doing to our environment with the next generation. So I came back. I went to teachers college at Nipissing and then started teaching from there. But we're actually going to digress just a little bit here. We're going to talk about something that's pretty important to me and the fact that there's so much left on this planet to explore and discover. So just a few days ago, I was on board of this ship. This is the exploration vessel Nautilus. This is Bob Ballard's ship. You may know him as the guy who discovered the Titanic, discovered hydrothermal vents and countless other deep sea things around the world. So this opportunity came up where I could be a science communication fellow on board of this ship for 2 weeks. So I went out to California, got on board the ship, and we were in the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary using remotely operated vehicles to dive over 3 kilometers into the ocean to explore places nobody has ever been or seen before. So it was pretty incredible. Got a little clip here because anywhere I go, I have to find an excuse to go diving. So I'm here with another Nat Geo explorer. We're in the kelp forest off Monterey, and we're flying the Nat Geo flag. So any excuse to get to the water is a good excuse. We left in San Francisco, so we found the ship and we met it there. We went out under the Golden Gate Bridge. And then here were the vehicles that we were diving all week. This is Hercules, so about 5,000 pounds. We go to a depth of 4,000 meters. That was the main ROV covered in cameras and lights. And then this is Argus. Argus is tethered to Herc, sits above as kind of an eye in the sky view, takes some of the surf and the movement so that Hercules can be nice and stable below. And then it was just a wild adventure. We've got here, I just want to show you some of the swell. We had some pretty wild swell at certain stages on the ship. It was a lot of fun. You can defy gravity. I don't know if you've ever experienced it before, but you can lean back and forth with the swell and get these crazy angles that you never would have thought were humanly possible. So we had about 24 hours of this. It was pretty intense. There's a few scientists on board who did not fare very well, but I thought it was great. I had fun. Things were flying off the shelves. I felt bad for people in the kitchen. Pretty awesome. And then just along that line of there's so much left to explore and discover and to show our students. I mean, 95% of our ocean is unmapped. We have better maps of Mars and the moon than we do of our ocean. we'll let this kind of talk in the background. But what we, actually I might just video this so I can talk over it. But what we found was this group of female octopus brooding on the bottom of the ocean, 3.5 kilometers down, over 1,000 of them. This is the last hour of a 40-hour dive. And we found this group. You can see in some of the shots, they've got their eggs under them. That's what they're protecting. They'll be down there 2 to 4 years, and then likely just die after they come to be when they're young hatch. So we found the world's largest and deepest group of breeding octopus on the planet. So it's pretty amazing. We got these amazing images and footage. We showed there's probably some thermal seeps down there, which is what they like to keep them warm. And it just means that we've got to get back there and find out more. So, you know, there is so much left to explore and discover, and I really got to experience that firsthand the last couple of weeks out on this journey and exploring areas no one has before. Like, this is the equivalent of someone giving you a flashlight at night and dumping you on the Himalayas and saying, I want you to document the Himalayas and bring back the material. So pretty amazing. It was an absolute blast. And, you know, there is this crazy rumor going around that there is nothing left to explore and discover, and that couldn't be further from the truth, especially with new technology now. And yes, we did have Halloween on board the ship. I did not bring a costume, but I went to Chinatown in San Francisco and found a Pikachu onesie. My son loves Pokemon. So I was scuba shoes. See, I've got my dive mask there, so to make it a little more ship friendly. All right, so after a few years of teaching, that was me at the top. That's how I was starting to feel. And I think that's probably how my students were starting to feel. I was spending way too much time using the textbook, way too much time putting pen to paper. And I knew if I wasn't enjoying what I was doing every day, there was no way that my students were. I knew I had to do something, find some way to reach them the way I wanted to, make things more exciting for them, bring my passions into the classroom and have that kind of rub off on them. And another thing that I've learned is a board teacher is a very dangerous teacher to their colleagues. And I'll show you why in a second. So this is my grade 4 teacher. And she taught me in grade 4, and then I ended up being her teaching partner 1 year. And so to keep myself entertained, I find things to do. So that was all of the 3-hole punches from the photocopy machine. I put it out her door. So they poured down on her. She retired that summer. I don't know if there's a correlation between me. And then my teaching partner the next year, she was all ready for her parent-teacher interview. It was all professional. The parents were lined up in the hallway. She came to her door. So a board teacher is no good to their colleagues either. So one summer, or that summer, when I was kind of looking over and reassessing what I was doing, I came across an article about Fabien Cousteau. This is Jacques Cousteau's grandson. As a diver, Jacques Cousteau was one of my heroes growing up. His grandson was going to live in an underwater laboratory for 31 days, and then also said he was going to Skype with classrooms. And I knew right there and there that my classroom was going to be one of those classrooms, and I reached out to his PR person to kind of get the ball rolling. But that got me thinking, if my students can talk to a Cousteau at the bottom of the ocean, what else is out there? What else can I find? What else can I make happen? So we launched off on a quest in my classroom that year to connect with 50 scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists from all over the world. And we did it. We had 52 connections by the end of the year. And to give you a small taste of what I found just by reaching out, this was our very first connection, not even with the scientists. This was in Uganda, an orphanage. Students or kids aged 5 to 17, they just got the technology to be able to do this. And we connected with them. And for over an hour, sang songs and danced and learned about what it's like. You know, my students talked about their life. They talked about how they live day to day in Uganda. And watching them smile and laugh and interact from thousands of miles away really hit home for me that these kind of connections really can have a big impact on my students. So this is Jeremy Henson, one of our remaining Canadian astronauts. He called us from one of the test facilities in Houston. We've got Dave Cornway. He's an adventurer who basically quit his life at 25, left his job, sold his house, and now goes around the world doing human-powered journeys greater than 1,000 miles. So he's skateboarded across Australia, he subboarded the Mississippi River. He looks for these crazy things to do. Jean spends 4 months a year in Antarctica living with penguins. We talked to her from there as the penguins were looking in. The students were asking her questions. The penguins are looking in the camera, trying to figure out what's going on. It was pretty cool. Nizar is a Nat Geo explorer and a paleontologist in Morocco. Natalie's local. She's a scientist. She is looking at ways to refuel satellites in space, which is pretty cool. She's trying to cut down on some of that space junk. We had a lesson on geology from Hugh. We had a team on Mount Etna. So as we're learning about geology, we've got ash billowing out of Mount Etna in the background. We want to learn about global warming. Here's Pal on a glacier in Iceland for us, talking about what's happening to the glaciers in Iceland and global warming. Andrea Marshall, the Queen of the Mantas, another National Geographic explorer, and Shaw Selby, who left his job as a satellite propulsion engineer to start building conservation technology to monitor illegal fishing, poaching, and other things around the world. So that's just a small taste of some of the things I was able to find just by reaching out saying, this is what I'm doing in my classroom. This is why we're doing it. Would you like to hang out with my classroom? There we go. So we did more. We tried to build on some of these experiences. So my students couldn't understand why I like to jump into the water with sharks. And no matter how much I talked to them about the myths, I couldn't kind of change that. So we had a connection with Jillian Morris, a marine biologist from an organization, Sharks for Kids. And in 45 minutes, she flipped the switch for them. She shared her experiences all around the world. She shared about what we're doing to sharks, the fact that 75 to 100 million sharks are removed from our oceans every year through bycatch and the shark fin trade. And by the end of this, not only do they have a newfound respect for sharks, they wanted to do something to help protect them. So we found out that there was going to be a shark call in Western Australia. They were going to start killing bull sharks, tiger sharks, and great white sharks, especially if they were in the proximity of beaches people swam at. So we wrote open letters to the Premier. We did a ton of research. He wrote back to my students and basically said, oh, this is nice, but you guys have no idea what you're talking about. So that made my students really angry because they did know what they were talking about, and we wrote more letters. And in the process made international headlines. So that was the Guelph Mercury, and these are a few newspapers in Western Australia. We did public service announcements for Sea Shepherd. Here's another article. We did a video, we did radio interviews. So I got to watch my students become global citizens during that period of time. I got to watch them find their voice and realize that they can have an impact even when they're far away from an issue. Now I wanted to share this in the school board, so I started a guest speaker tour. Each year we bring speakers in to tour the school board and reaching upwards of 8,000 students. So the first year we brought the crew from Sharks for Kids from Bimini down to tour the school board. The next year we had Emily and Travis. He's a primatologist studying lemurs. She's an ocean advocate and a sailor. And then this guy, you've got to look him up, James Ketchell. He was in a really bad motorbike accident about probably about a decade ago now, and busted up his leg, his arm. The doctor said, prepare for a sedentary lifestyle. And he responded by rowing solo across the Atlantic, climbing Everest, and cycling 18,000 miles around the world. And he's gearing up now. He's just bought a gyrocopter and learned how to fly it. And he's going to take a run in the spring and becoming the first person to circumnavigate the planet by gyrocopter. So we'll be working a lot with him, and that's going to make more sense in a second. And I wanted to get in on the action. I started teaching some of my own online sessions to classrooms around the world. I'd be getting up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning to hang out with classes in India and other places around the world, talking about scuba diving, what we're doing to our planet, even did a live one from the Shark Lab in Bimini. So I was having tons of fun in the classroom, reaching students around the world, doing lessons myself. I need to figure out a way to keep this going. So in the summer of 2015, I had contacts from all over the planet, and it just seemed like a shame that 20 to 30 students a year were taking advantage of this. So having no idea what I was doing, and I'll let you in on something else, day to day, I still don't know what I'm doing. I Still figuring things out. And I started a nonprofit called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And the goal is to bring science, adventure, exploration, and conservation to classrooms across North America. And now we're starting to spread beyond. So we do this through virtual field trips. We do this through live guest speakers. We're probably getting close to 1,000 live events run so far. And scientists and explorers taking part from over 50 countries. So it's been kind of a wild ride. We'll talk a little bit about it now. So we use Google Hangouts. Anybody use that in their classroom, Google Hangouts? So we use a slightly different version of it. We use Hangouts on air through YouTube Live. And what this allows us to do is this lets us have 6 or 7 classrooms live on camera who can interact with the speakers from different locations. They stream live over YouTube. So if you're not ready for a camera spot, you can tune in live on YouTube and watch. There's a chat sidebar where you can even send in some questions. And then they record to YouTube. So if you can't make one live or you want to use it later in the school year, we have a whole library of these events that are building up that can be used by anybody at any time. So we're trying to have the biggest reach we possibly can. A few groups that we do get to work with. This is just a small sample. So National Geographic, Canadian Geographic, that's the world's only underwater laboratory in the Florida Keys. Sandcobs, the Penguin Rehabilitation Center. We've got the aquarium in Toronto. We usually visit a few times a month for events ranging from shark feedings to dives in the kelp forest that they have there. And then we work with tons of individual scientists and explorers and adventurers who might take part once a year, 5 times a year, whatever they feel like. They make their decisions. So just a few pictures of classrooms in action. Sometimes they'll be on their one-to-one technology. They might journal, keep adventure logs. They might do a little bit of research for questions. Some like just to have it right in front of them. Maybe the screen's not enough for them. They like to have it nice and close. This is the kind of a typical screenshot. So Google's really intuitive and good at kind of picking on who's talking. So if the speaker is sharing, they're the main screen. If the kids are asking their questions or cheering, like in this case, they're the main screen. So you can see the speaker. There's Amy down there. She's a Nat Geo photographer. There's myself hosting this event, and we've got a group of classrooms who are tuned in along the bottom. So that's kind of a typical screenshot. We do lots of virtual field trips. We don't really put ages on the lessons. I've given up on doing that. We want to keep them as general and open to as many people as possible. So a rule of thumb is the field trips are really good for any age group, kindergarten through grade 6, to keep them up. And then the guest speakers, usually grades 4 and upwards, can slot into those fairly effectively. The speakers are usually sharing their stories and their adventures and their research, and they're trying to do it in a way that's open and accessible to the students. And then obviously it's interactive. You can see the classrooms get pretty excited taking part. And we get to do some pretty wild things. So this is George Karunas. He's a Canadian explorer and adventurer. Was the host of Angry Planet on the Weather Network, I think a few other channels. And he's also one of our board of directors. So one thing that I do is I ask our explorers and our scientists when they can you film us little promos from the field, what you're up to, explore by the seat of your pants, that kind of thing. So George threw down the gauntlet really early, and I don't know if this one's ever going to be topped.
I'm explorer and adventurer George Karunas. And when I explore, I do it by the seat of my pants.
So he's lowered himself 400 meters, he's rappelled down to the lava lake in this volcano in Vanuatu to film that. He was doing other things too, but he took a few seconds to do that for me. Maybe if we can get him from the space station, maybe that would be close, but that's going to be a tough one to beat in the future. So we run 30 to 50 events a month, and usually it's a grab bag from the worlds of science, adventure, exploration, and conservation. But we do have themes as well that will feed through some of the months. So for instance, World Oceans Day is now a week-long event, but the first time we ever did it, it was 12 hours, 26 speakers, 5 countries, and well over 10,000 students taking part from all across North America. February, we kick all the men out, and we host exclusively women in science and exploration, so that's always a fun month. And all kinds of things, oceans, plastics, coral reefs. Right now we're doing space exploration, so you can still get in on some space exploration events this month. There might still be a few spots kicking around. Of course, you can tune in live on YouTube or afterwards. And this is 100% free for classrooms always. This is something I pledged when I started it. I would never charge classrooms for this. It makes things a little more difficult, so I'm chasing donations, sponsorships, grants, and things like that to keep everything running, but it's worth it to create that level playing field where every classroom can participate as much as they want, irregardless of their location and demographics and such. Now, one of our first big successes was the Canadian Scholarship Trust Inspired Minds Learning Project. This was a cross-Canada search for a new learning project. There were 300 or so entries. We made the top 10 after 2 weeks of voting. The Canadian celebrity judges took over and we were the unanimous choice for the top prize. So $100,000 right when we started, which paid for a really flashy new website and some really crazy technology. Whoops, probably want to go forward. So it was really important to me that, most of our connections are from the Explorer's office, their home, their lab, maybe in the field if they have a good cell phone connection. But I wanted to find a way to bring the most remote regions on the planet live into classrooms whenever I wanted to. And to do this, I came across these satellite BGAN units. These are the size of a textbook. Explorer scientist takes it into the field with them. They point it at the satellite, and then with their cell phone or computer wirelessly connected, we can now video broadcast into classrooms from pretty much anywhere on the planet. So we send these all over the world. We have 7 units now and promises for more from different foundations. We're going to get us some more. And we've had them on the remote coral island on the planet, Clipperton Atoll, in a place like the Bahamas, all throughout Africa, South America. George Karunas to take one to Antarctica in about a week or so. So we broadcast from the top of active volcanoes, from caves underground. This technology lets us do some pretty amazing things. Our very first ever test was Jill Heinert and Kenny Broad. Jill's a pretty well-known Canadian explorer, probably one of the premier Canadian female cave divers on the planet. Kenny's another cave diver with Nat Geo, and they brought our first unit down to the Bahamas, and we were able to broadcast our first live events. And we have a little clip that they put together for us from those first events.
So this morning's mission is to go in with some little plastic vials and actually put in the location pinger, this guy right here. We're going to put that in the cave. It'll float vertically in the cave, and then we're going to find it on the surfaces to emit some signals. And after that, we're going to go and try to find some critters to bring up in little plastic vials so the kids can see them. And then after the kids do this afternoon, we'll go return them to their watery home.
Here comes the first question under that.
Hi, my name is Brooklyn, and my question is, have you ever encountered with any rare animals in the blue holes?
We think that animals like the remipede, we think they've been around for over 200 million years with very little change.
He's got little venomous pincers, so he can actually lock onto something, inject venom, and kind of dissolve the thing and eat it over time.
Was it ever inside like the beetle prison and turns into jello so that they could just it?
And it's got dozens of legs swimming around there, and it's actually the top predator. And you can see how tiny it is, but it's the top predator in the cave. Remember, it doesn't have eyes. It only senses from either vibrations or some kind of chemical signal in the water.
Some of them are endemic. That means that they live only in one cave that we found on the whole planet. And in some cases, animals can be endemic to a single room in a single cave. Now, there might be more of them on planet Earth, but there's not too many cave divers who can identify animals. We haven't found them yet.
Thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Loud as we can, smaller classes up there.
All right. So, like I said, we've had them different places all around the world. Here's a few shots from when we had it in Bimini, the behind-the-scenes shots with the team. This is Clipperton Atoll, which is that coral island that I mentioned. We're the first ever kind of broadcast from that area. And then we sent it to Belize at one stage with an archaeological team, and they were able to join us once a week and update us and show us new areas they'd uncovered. And then when they returned the unit, it came back with a little Belizean surprise for me. This is Maya. She was kind of their mascot. She showed up at their site in pretty rough shape. So yeah, I ended up with Maya. Now she's, I guess, yeah, a new member of our family. So pretty cool. This last little clip here, I'll click on. We're not going to play the whole thing, but I'll put the CC on anyways for just a moment. Sometimes this stuff is happening when classrooms aren't in session. So this is Andrew Stein. He's a natural explorer, studying big cats. And during the day, he did a live event with us from his campsite in Botswana. And then that night, he was going to be tagging lions. So he went out. They darted 2 of them. Hope you can kind of see a little bit right here, but there's 2 lions, a male and a female, that they darted. And then, so the next day when the students came back to school, he done this Facebook Live event with the unit, and then they could see him in the field doing his thing, which is pretty cool. And actually, December, we'll be looking at big cats again with National Geographic. We'll have about 15 speakers from all over the world, including Andrew again. He's going to do a session from his office to introduce students to what he does. And we're going to do one live from Botswana. So hopefully classrooms will follow along with both of those sessions with him. All right. Oh, so again, kind of along the lines of keeping myself entertained is generally when I'm supposed to be doing something, I get distracted. And one thing I like to do is memes with pants. And I think it fits well with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So I'm going to run a couple by you right now as a little intermission. And then afterwards, if you can think of anything I should do and add to this, I'm always looking for more ideas. We've got the classic Indiana Jones with pants. A little The Hobbit. Christopher Walken, I think it's a pretty well-known Saturday Night Live. Everyone knows this guy. And Jerry Maguire couldn't pick, so I just did both of them. And then you've got to be topical, right? There's things happening around the world, so got some executive orders happening in DC. It's kind of a big deal. So before we leave this train, I want to go to the Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants website really quickly, because I really want to illustrate for you just how easy it is to get involved. The technology is really minimal. If you have a laptop with a halfway, built-in microphone or a camera, some teachers use a desktop with a plug-in webcam or microphone. Some use an iPad or a Chromebook to connect. And then a projector or a smartboard is really all you need. Most schools have that available. So that's accessible. And let's just go to this website. So if anyone's following along, it's exploringbytheseat.com. And the whole point was to make it as easy as possible with as few clicks necessary. So when you're dropped in on the website, there's a few of the featured events that kind of run along the top. As you scroll downwards, you can find a little bit better listing of what's coming up. Here's where you're going to want to take a moment and sign up for the newsletter. We send 2 to 3 out a month with all the events and the updates, what's happening, how many camera spots are left, that kind of thing. So you're going to want to sign up for that. We've got a selection of the upcoming lessons here. And then just a little map of where we've been in the world. So over 50 countries now. Lessons. So you go to the upcoming lesson section and you can see everything that's coming up for the month. So you can see our first event next week is with Tori Linder. She's studying panthers in Florida. There's no camera spots left, but you can still watch live on YouTube. So here's one. We're going to be on this ship. I think there's still 2 spots left in this one, looking at hydrothermal vents in the Pacific Ocean. So if you click read more, if your classroom's not ready for a camera spot, that's fine. At 1 o'clock on November 13th, hit the stream button and it will open in your classroom. That's it. If you want a camera spot, because this one I think has 2 left, I haven't updated it since yesterday, click the sign up button. It's going to bring you to a Google form. Fill in your details, including this drop-down menu with all the events that are coming up for the month, and then submit it to me. Within 24 hours, I will let you know, yes, you've got the spot, more details are coming, or sorry, the camera spot's filled, but here's the link so you can watch it live or later. Yeah? In the camera spot, it usually ends up being 5 to 7 classrooms on camera, different locations, and then after the speaker, shows off where they are or presents a lesson, then we moderate a Q&A with the live classrooms. All right, so that's how easy it is to use. And then if you go to YouTube, Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants on YouTube, you'll find about 450 recorded events up there. You'll find another 200 or so on the National Geographic Education website. And then there's some we have to take down because a lot of times the scientists will share unreleased, unpublished material or copyright material. Or when you go to the Turtle Hospital 50 times, you don't need to have every single one of those events available. All right, let's jump back in. So I want to change gears and go National Geographic for a little bit now. Fortunately, the link to this video seems to be broken, so we'll just jump right into this section. So I grew up with National Geographic. I mean, my classroom had like 5 shelves full of them. My basement was full of National Geographic magazines. It really helped shape my view of the world, and a lot of their explorers were my heroes growing up. So I knew early on I wanted to get National Geographic's attention and somehow have them on board with this project. So before I started Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, they caught wind of what I was doing from another article, and they featured me in a blog. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever. I want a blog on National Geographic. I've made it. Nothing else needs to happen. But our relationship kept growing from there. So is anybody here a certified educator with National Geographic? I know there might be a couple. One? So this is a really cool program that they've started. You can become a certified educator. It's basically a 3-part process. The first part is a in-person workshop, or now you can do them virtually online as well. So that's pretty convenient. The second part is lessons. So you do 1 or 2 lessons in your classroom and document the learning in your class. And then the third part is a little capstone project, a 1 to 2 minute video you can share with National Geographic. And then from there, you'll be welcomed into the community of educators. So you get that recognition of being a National Geographic certified educator. You get to connect with like-minded educators around the world. So they've just built a whole new site they're about to launch where this community can interact and work together and share resources. And then there's really cool perks and benefits. I'm going to talk about the best one in just a second, but I see a question at the back. Yeah. You stole that from me. No, I'm just kidding. So there is one. You're right, at 12:30. I think it'll be the rest of the afternoon. Yeah, but I highly recommend doing it because it's going to get you the ability to apply for this experience. So the Grosvenor Teacher Fellowship is a program started by Sven Lindblad from Lindblad Expeditions and National Geographic, where they send teachers out on the ships to experience an expedition, then bring that new learning back to their communities, to their classrooms, make lessons to share with other teachers. So this started as a birthday present to the editor of National Geographic of 2 spots on the ships forever. It's grown now to 40 teachers this year. So it's grown quite a bit. The year that I was, in 2016, there was 30 of us from across North America who went down to headquarters for a 4-day workshop and to prep for our expedition. And then in groups of 2 or 3, we were sent all over the world, Antarctica, the Arctic. I got to spend 10 days in the Galapagos, which, as someone who studied zoology and biology, there was nowhere in the world that I wanted to go more. And it was pretty cool that year because there were 4 Canadians. It was the most Canadians they'd ever had in a group before. So that was pretty cool. And I learned you don't put a drink on the table the society was founded on in 1888. That's frowned upon. It was covered in glass, so they gave me a hard time, but it was fine. So yeah, I spent 10 days on the National Geographic Endeavour with some other really cool people from around the world. Galapagos is everything you hear. The amazing wildlife, endemic, found nowhere else on the planet in a lot of cases, and they could care less that you're there. They've evolved in isolation without humans and many predators. They don't view us as a threat, which they really probably should. And they just go about their daily business, and you can interact and get these amazing images and experiences in the wild with them. So just a few to share. Flightless cormorant, so vestigial wings. Their ancestor would have been able to fly, but with no predators and lots of food in the water. They've got these big, strong legs that they can use. So this male had just returned from hunting. He dropped this beautiful gift for his mate, this seaweed, which I wish it was that easy to bring some seaweed back after the hunt. She's getting ready to go in, and there's two young there who are waiting for their food. The sea lions are everywhere, all over the lava, rock, and beaches. The blue-footed boobies are hilarious. So the males have the blue feet, because the bluer the feet, the healthier they are. So the females, you can see he's doing his dance, he's showing her his feet. She's like, oh, okay, check this out, see what he's got. The bluer the feet, the healthier and better he can hunt. Unfortunately for this guy, he danced for about 10 minutes and then she took off. The feet weren't blue enough. So off to try again, maybe some better luck next time. So it's pretty amazing watching these interactions. Every snorkeling session ended with sea lions, the young sea lions, popping up in your face and blowing bubbles, trying to pull your fins off. Trying to get you to do somersaults and play with them, and I was a very willing participant. I would play for hours with these guys. It was a lot of fun. Got our marine iguanas hanging out on the rocks. This place was infested with green sea turtles. On some of the snorkels, you look around, there'd be 20 or 30 of them almost within arm's reach. It was pretty crazy. And then, yeah, like I said, you just get down, you take some pictures, and everything is close and accessible, and the landscapes are absolutely phenomenal. 97% of the land is fully protected. This is Rabida, it's a volcanic island that's rusted over time with all the iron in the rocks. Every island's different. It's pretty amazing. This is Fernandina, the youngest island. We're looking at the ship and the volcanoes that make up Isabella in the background, the largest island in the Galapagos. And the only place I've ever had to step over a sea lion to go to the bank. It's just a pretty incredible spot. So the Roman Teacher Fellowship is amazing. It's open right now, the applications until December, but you do have to be a certified educator, but your opportunity to get that ball rolling is at 12:30 today. So if you have time, I highly recommend it. You can also start in the new year with a new group and do it online and work through it that way if you so desire.
National Geographic explorers are scientists, conservationists, adventurers, and storytellers. Hello everybody, how are you? Our Explorer Classroom program brings experts from the front lines of exploration
just below us, where the volcano just blasted itself open,
to the front of your classroom. I'm always looking for real-world connections for the students. This was the perfect vehicle for them. All Explorer Classroom sessions are free, less than an hour, and easy to join. Register online to interact live with explorers around the world.
Halloween for Peru, Zambia, Guatemala, Kenya,
Southern Jordan.
Mozambique, welcome to the field without leaving the building.
pretty cool. It's so exciting. I love it.
Join the conversation.
How long to pilot to pilot a submarine? I bet every single one of you could pilot this submarine.
It's like playing a video game in real life.
How many animals do you have there?
Huge tortoises, spiny cave fish, a chameleon,
Great question.
and bring exploration to life in your classroom.
To asking your questions or finding answers that you can share with others.
Learn more today.
So that's National Geographic Explorer Classroom. They basically just ripped off what I do. No, I'm just kidding. They have full permission because I started the program with them. So it's basically exploring by the seat of your pants, but we feature National Geographic explorers and grantees, and they also do a great job of funding satellite time. So we spend a lot of time sending our satellite units with them into the field. Pretty amazing explorers all over the world, including Paul Salopek. So on November 16th, you're going to want to meet this guy. This is Paul Salopek. He's a journalist who's walking the entire planet. So he's starting in Ethiopia, and over the next 10 years, he's going to walk all the way to the tip of South America, following our ancestral migration route out of Africa and So if you've now learned about India, so that's where he's going to call us from on this next connection, and he's still got like 7 or more years to go, doing slow journalism, talking to people every 100 or so meters, and getting their stories and such. So pretty amazing sessions that we do with National Geographic. We do a lot of our satellite sessions with them as well. So Explore Classroom, if you want to look that up. So National Geographic wasn't done blowing my mind. January 2017, they brought me on as an emerging explorer. So every year they look around the world and take 12 to 14 people who they think are game changers, who are doing something exciting in their field and having an impact. So scientists, storytellers, explorers, this amazing group of people all over the world, they decided to tack me on the end, which is pretty cool. And a little bit of money for exploring by the seat of your pants. But then the support of National Geographic to continue doing what I'm doing. And then every year there's Explorers Fest, where explorers from all over the world converge on Washington for a week in DC. And there's workshops and awards and events and collaboration. And so I went to my first Explorers Fest that year, which was absolutely incredible. My girlfriend, Sylvia Earle, she's in her 80s now, but still diving and exploring the planet. Huge crush on her, she's pretty amazing. This is the crew from the first year. These are scientists, explorers, adventurers from all over the world who were down. I got to present on the National Geographic stage, which was like pinch me, dream come true. It was pretty amazing. And yeah, it's hard to get explorers to dress up, but they managed to get us to do it for the awards nights. And so this is us, the emerging explorers. And then I got to hang out with like James Cameron, who's another hero of mine. So third person to go to the bottom of the ocean, and you might know his movies. I think they're popular. So that was pretty amazing. So with National Geographic, you really can, as an educator, grow and work with them. So from an Educator of the Week blog where they show off your work, to becoming a certified educator, to a Grosvenor Teacher Fellow, to now about to announce their second class of Education Fellows. So last year I was lucky enough to be their first Education Fellow with these 4 individuals from in the US. This year they're about to announce the new class, so there's 8 new fellows, and then I'm coming on for a second year as well. So how it generally works is you would be still in your classroom, but you get a stipend to work on a project for National Geographic, something you deliver at the end, and with their support. Mine's a little bit different with the relationship already. They've had me out of the classroom for the last 2 years, and I've been building the Explorer Classroom, and then I have the freedom to keep growing my program as well. So this is another thing, as your relationship grows with National Geographic, you can have these opportunities. So if you go to nationalgeographic.org and then click on education, you can find the Grosvenor Teacher Fellowship, the Certified Educator Program, Grosvenor Teacher Fellowship. They've got a new digital asset library they're building where you can punch in your grade level and what you're studying and find curated resources from videos and pictures and stories and lessons that you can use in your classroom. So it's a pretty solid site, definitely worth checking out and learning a little bit more about. So I highly recommend you spend some time there. All right, so running out of time, but the last thing I'll talk about is an experience I had earlier in the year in April. There's something called the Global Teacher Prize. So this foundation in the UK, the Barkey Foundation, opens up an application and nomination process where you can nominate teachers for this opportunity. So last year, I think there was between 30 to 40,000 applicants from 170 countries, and they picked the top 50 to go to this amazing conference in Dubai and meet the teachers and get a chance to work with some really cool people. So I was nominated and made the top 50, which was pretty wild. Got to spend some time in Egypt. On my way to Dubai for the conference, obviously I took advantage to go diving in Dubai. So we've got one of the most poisonous fish on the planet here. This is a stonefish. Got a little Nemo action, an eel, and then the conference was incredible. So these are Canadians from past years. The prize is $1 million if you win the top prize, so it's pretty amazing. This is Maggie, she won it 2 years ago. So she's a Canadian teacher, and then there's a few others represented there. And we went out to the desert. We wanted to come in traditional dress. So we had hockey jerseys made, and that's the year that they were top 50 finalists. Got to meet amazing teachers from around the world, and it was just an awesome experience and a real recharge to meet people doing exciting things in different countries, to have the opportunity to work with them afterwards and such. I believe the applications open in the summers, and then I think they close sometime in September for this. It's a pretty awesome experience. So I'm going to we're already at 11:50, so I'm going to kind of push through this last little part really quickly. A few other resources I've used in my classroom. Does anybody use Skype in the classroom? No? A few? So I started using this when I first started out, but I found that their virtual field trips and speakers weren't as exciting as I was looking for. I think the variety wasn't there, so that's why I kind of branched off on my own. But the collaboration with other teachers from around the world is really great. And then there's an awesome game called Mystery Skype. Anybody ever played Mystery Skype with their class? A couple? So this is a geography race. Fast forward there. There we go. You pair up with another teacher somewhere in the world, and then the classes meet via Skype and race to figure out where the other classroom is. So there's 4 ways to play. This is the early version when you're just getting started or with young kids. 20 questions, any of these games. What language do you speak? What kind of food do you eat? Things like that. When the class gets a little more experience, you shift just to yes or no questions. So are you in the Eastern Hemisphere? Are you landlocked? Is there a mountain range that runs through your state? Things like that. When your students are more advanced, you step back and they take over. So they all have jobs from greeters to bloggers to mappers, runners, questioners, all those different jobs, and they run the whole session. You only step in if there's a tech problem. The first year we did this, I like to mess with my class. I like to mess with the other teachers too. So some things that we'll do, we try different accents sometimes when we ask our questions to try and throw them off the scent. We change our location. You should delete your location on Skype or change it. So we changed our location to Australia or Pakistan, and they blow their first question, you're in Australia. No, sorry. So you can do little things like that. But to try and mess with my class, I found a school on Eldred, which is in the Channel Islands. It's 1.5 miles wide and 3 miles in length, and they got in 15 questions. So, but this was from a whole year of watching their inquiry skills grow, their geographical knowledge and such. I think I had given that day one, it's been a write-off, but by the end of the year, they really impressed me with that one. And then classrooms on the other side of the world, well, that's not a problem. You just do it via video messaging on Skype. So you meet up with that classroom, come to school on maybe Tuesday morning, there's 3 questions recorded and waiting for you. You answer them through video and ask them 3. The next morning, you find your answers and 3 more questions. So it could take a whole week or longer, but it's awesome bell work. I'm really excited to come to school the next morning to see their questions answered and then ask their next group of questions. So Mystery Skype's a lot of fun. We'll just briefly touch on a few Google things. I'm sure many of you have tried Google Expeditions with the Google Cardboard. So it is fun, and I've used it in my classroom before. Maybe one of the downsides is everybody needs their own smartphone, but when I taught grade 7, 8 math and science, everybody had one in their backpack anyways, so that wasn't an issue. And the events are the same. So if you do it once, it's going to be the same the next time. So that's kind of why I lean towards the live interactions a little bit more, but they are a lot of fun, and students do like being able to visit places like the Great Barrier Reef or different museums and things like that. This is Google Earth Engine, time-lapse. Google basically took 30 years of satellite footage of the entire planet, deleted all the cloudy days, and now you can search anywhere in the world and watch how it changed over the last 30 years. You can look at glaciers retreating, deforestation, urban development, anywhere on the planet, and you can watch the last 30 years play out. So this is really cool and a great way to illustrate what we're doing to our planet. So Google Earth Engine and search time-lapse. Anyone ever use Google Arts and Culture? We're not going to dive into this now, but there's 3 things about it that are pretty amazing. 1, for art, they've gone all over the world, all the major museums, photographed in high definition, all the material, the paintings. You can zoom in on Van Gogh's Starry Night, so close in high resolution, you can see the canvas in behind and the individual brush strokes. It's got all the information about the painting, where it's located, what it's supposed to represent, Van Gogh's biography. Then you click the little yellow dude and it drops you into the Museum of Modern Art, and you go on your own virtual field trip. You see where it's on the wall, then you can move through the museum and click on all the other paintings and zoom in the exact same way. The history section, they've taken historic events from all over the world, like World War I or II, for instance. They've collected letters, images, clothing, videos, anything you can imagine, and built it into these really cool stories you can use. So D-Day, for instance, you can drop into the story, read letters from the soldiers, video clips, really kind of have that full immersive experience. And the third part is the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So using their Google 360 cameras, they've gone to all the World Heritage Sites in the world, like the Taj Mahal and such, and you can go on virtual field trips throughout those with this. And this is a really fun website. You can just turn your students loose and see what they discover and find on this website. And the last thing just to mention is Google Earth. So Google Earth is fully online now. You don't have to download anything. Once you launch it, you can play games like Feeling Lucky and Roll the Dice, and it takes you somewhere in the world. But what I love is the Voyages. Anybody ever use the Google Voyages on here? So it's like a ship's wheel. You click on it, and there's all different stories curated by groups like BBC, National Geographic, other organizations around the world. And you can drop into a section of the planet. It's got all different waypoints for you, and then it tells you that story as you move through the different waypoints with pictures and videos. For instance, the crab migration on Christmas Island. You can drop onto Christmas Island and take this really cool virtual tour through the crab migration on the island. So they're adding more and more of those every week, so this is a lot of fun to use with your classroom as well. All right. Well, first of all, thank you for taking some time to listen to my voice for the last hour or so. I hope that I showed you that there's some really cool ways and opportunities out there that you can open your classroom up to the world, and that they're easy and that they're free for the most part. There is so much left to explore and discover on our planet. And the biggest thing I found over the years is teachers sometimes can be intimidated by technology, but as you can see with things like Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, if you can open YouTube, if you can fill out a Google form, you can join us for these events and take your classroom pretty much anywhere on the planet. So thank you so much for hanging out today. If you want to track me down further, you can find me on Twitter. We've got our Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants on YouTube. That's the links for Explore Classroom, Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Feel free to, ask any questions now. I think we still have a couple minutes, or approach me afterwards. I'm very approachable. Again, thank you so much for hanging out, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Any questions? No? Well, that makes it easy. Yeah? So the last 2 years I haven't taught. Well, no, that's a lie, because I'm doing the kind of teaching I envisioned I'd be doing when I went to Teachers College. What's really important to me looking around is what's happening to our planet and how we have a small window to reach the next generation or two before that window closes. So being able to reach hundreds of thousands of students a year in this way is the kind of teaching that I wanted to do. So I'm doing what I wanted to do. I mean, I love being in the classroom, but if National Geographic says, here's a fellowship to leave the classroom, I'm gonna take it. So I've been out for 2 years. Decision time comes in September when my school board, their flexibility is no longer gonna be there. So it's come back or jump in with both feet. So we'll see. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the certification process?
Sure. So yeah, there's the online portion. You can do it online, or you can do it in person today if you want. And it really is just learning a lot about National Geographic and their inquiry framework. So basically, they've kind of taken a look at what it takes to be an informed student, an explorer, an adventurer, and trying to work that into a geography curriculum. So you'll learn a lot about the inquiry framework. Things like curiosity and being connected and the right attitude and skill set and things like that. So there's a real push right now to be getting that out into classrooms and getting students to be more critical thinkers and more outside the box, and to try new experiences and things like that. So that's kind of the first little portion, which sounds like today will be between an hour to 2 hours. So you'll learn all about a little bit about the society and what's happening in the education department. So that's part one. Part two is where you go back to your classroom and come up with a lesson plan, something to challenge your students, to open the world to them a little bit, take them outside of their classroom or comfort zone. And so that's kind of a two-part process. And once you've done that with your class, you should kind of record a little bit of the process. And then it's a 1 to 2 minute video that you will submit as a capstone project. And what that does is shows Nat Geo, yep, you went through the process, but it's also other educators will see it and hopefully use your idea in their classroom. So I think it's like all in all, I think they've calculated it's like a 15 to 20 hour commitment over multiple months. You can do it at your own pace. The sessions usually last multiple months. You know, so there's nobody like cracking the whip. There's nobody demanding things a week, you know, after you started. So it really is a laid back process, and the community is pretty incredible. The teachers you get to meet from around the world. And then the opportunities with National Geographic. They just had their first education summit last week while I was out on the ship. And they brought teachers from all over North America down to headquarters to meet and collaborate and share ideas. So their education space is growing and growing and growing, and it's pretty darn important that it continues to do so.
I'll make a small plug to Kathy's workshop at 12:30 is the phase one workshop. But at 2 o'clock, I'm going to be talking about the certification process and the new ventures that Nat Geo has in store for teachers. So that's at 2 o'clock, and then at 12:30, you're actually taking the phase one workshop. So you get that part out of the way in the certification process. Mine is just talking about the options that Nat Geo has available for teachers.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day at Stale. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Great. I worked out. I tried not to do too much.
Sound person.
Thanks for joining.
If I do that.
Always. Always.